Hey, did you know that we might not even have Thanksgiving the way that we celebrate it today? The big feasts, the family gatherings, or the national holiday, if it worked for one woman's decades-long letter-writing campaign. Her name was Sarah Josephia Hale, and without her, Thanksgiving might have just stayed a scattered local tradition, celebrated differently in each state, or maybe forgotten altogether. Today, we're talking about the woman who not only helped shape American literature, but she also convinced the president to create one of the most beloved holidays in the country. This is the story of the woman who invented Thanksgiving. Welcome everybody to another episode of Hey Did You Know, where we dig up the weird, the forgotten, and the downright strange corners of America. Before we dive in, I want to say make sure you're following wherever you're listening at, because you're not going to want to miss one of these very strange stories. I drop a new one every Wednesday, so make sure that you're here to listen with the rest of us. Also, leave a comment at the end. Let me know what you think. I love hearing your ideas, love hearing your comments, so please just, type something. Maybe I'll even read a couple on another episode. But having said all that, I'm sure you want to hear today's story. So let's get started. Close your eyes and picture America in the 1840s. We're still young, only less than 70 years old, but still pulling apart at the seams. There's debate over slavery, westward expansion, and what it even means to be an American. Even the holidays were divided. In New England, families gathered for Thanksgiving in late November, while in the South, it really wasn't a thing at all. Some states celebrate in October, some in December, and others didn't even bother. So while you and I are gearing up for turkey, parades, and football all week, 180 years ago, the idea of a national Thanksgiving was just that, an idea. And one woman was determined to make it real. So who was she, you ask? Well, let's start at the beginning. Sarah Josephia Hale was born on October 24th, 1788 in Newport, New Hampshire. Her birth name was actually Sarah Josephia Buell, and she was the daughter of Captain Gordon and Martha Whittlesey Buell. Her parents believed in educating their children, something that really wasn't common for the time. Sarah was homeschooled by her mother and her older brother Horatio, but most of her learning came through her own determination. By the time she was around 18, she had even founded a small school of her own, where she taught younger children. In 1811, Sarah's father opened a tavern in Newport called the Rising Sun, and it was there that she met a local attorney named David Hale. The two were married on October 23rd of 1813, at the very same tavern where they met. By most accounts, their marriage was a supportive one. David encouraged Sarah's intellectual pursuits and believed very much in her potential. And together, the couple had 5 children. Tragically, in 1822, David died, leaving Sarah widowed, and with 5 kids to raise, she turned her attention more fully to writing as a means to support her family. A year later, Sarah published a volume of poems called The Genius of Oblivion, with support from her husband's Masonic Lodge. Then, in 1827, she published her first novel, Northwood, A Tale of New England, which established her as one of the earliest American female novelists. Her background in the early stages shaped her worldview, self-education, determination, and a strong belief in the power of literature and moral guidance. She was very much a product of New England, but her vision and ambitions extended her far beyond home. By the late 1820s, Sarah's literary career was really starting to take off. In 1828, she moved to Boston and accepted a position as the editor of the Ladies' Magazine. Nearly a decade later, in 1837, the magazine was purchased by Louis Gotti and rebranded as Gotti's Ladies' Book. Sarah stayed on as an editor, becoming one of the most influential voices in American publishing. And in 1841, she even moved the magazine's operations to Philadelphia, where it would reach an audience of hundreds of thousands of readers. What did she do with her platform? She did a lot. She published literary pieces, essays, poems, advice on domestic life, fashion, cooking, but also editorials on women's education, philanthropy, and national identity. And while Sarah did not align herself with the more radical feminist movements of her day, she strongly believed that women's education mattered. Her role as editress made her one of the most influential women in the 19th century, shaping American middle-class culture, especially for women readers. So now you've got this woman with a national platform, a respected reputation, and a clear vision. And that combination set the stage for her next big crusade, one that would change American history forever. So now let's finally get to what we actually came here for, Thanksgiving. In the early 19th century, Thanksgiving can mean a lot of different things depending on where you lived in America. In New England, it was often a local harvest celebration or a religious day of thanks, but there was no national Thanksgiving, no single day when the entire country stopped to reflect and celebrate together. Sarah Hale believed that America needed exactly that, a national festival of Thanksgiving, a day dedicated to unity, gratitude, and the warmth of home and family. In her novel Northwood, she even wrote, "We have too few holidays. Thanksgiving, like the 4th of July, should be a national festival observed by all the people." So starting in the 1840s, some sources say around 1846, Sarah Hale began her campaign for a nationally recognized Thanksgiving holiday. She used her platform at the Godey's Ladies book to spread the message, writing about it twice a year in her popular Editor's Table column. But she didn't just stop there. Sarah wrote letters to just about anybody that could help her make it happen. Governors, church leaders, and even U.S. Presidents Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, and James Buchanan, urging them to set aside one unified day of Thanksgiving, traditionally in late November. On September 28, 1863, Sarah Hale wrote President Abraham Lincoln, urging him to set aside the last Thursday of November as a national holiday, quote, Union Thanksgiving, a day for Americans to pause, give thanks, and find unity amid the devastation of the Civil War. And Lincoln listened. Just days later, on October 3rd, 1863, he issued a proclamation declaring the last Thursday of November a, quote, day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent Father who dwelleth in the heavens. Now, it is important to note that this did not immediately make Thanksgiving a permanent national holiday, but it marked a crucial turning point. Hale's decades-long campaign had finally reached the highest office in the land, and her message came at a moment when the nation needed it the most. After 1863, Hale didn't stop advocating. She continued to push for Thanksgiving to be an annual, fixed, and truly national celebration. Over time, her vision became reality. In 1870, Congress officially made Thanksgiving a national holiday, though the date still moved around a bit. Then in 1941, Congress settled it once and for all, declaring the fourth Thursday in November as Thanksgiving Day. So in the end, Sarah Josephia Hale didn't just create the idea of Thanksgiving as a national holiday, she helped shape what it means, a celebration of unity, home, and gratitude. But making Thanksgiving a national holiday was only part of the story. When the first Thanksgiving celebrations took shape, it was about reflection, a time to pause, give thanks, and appreciate survival in the face of hardship. But of course, if you're gathering with your family, you're going to want to eat. Back then, the meals looked completely different than what they look like today. There wasn't a fixed menu. Families simply just ate what they had. In New England, that might have meant wild turkey, venison, or fish. In coastal towns, oysters, cod. And there were hearty stews, corn puddings, root vegetables, pies sweetened with molasses instead of sugar, because it was very hard to come by sugar back then. However, Sarah sort of had a say in what the Thanksgiving table would look like. Through Godey's Ladies book and even an entire chapter in her 1827 novel, she painted a picture of the ideal holiday dinner. A golden roast turkey, pumpkin and apple pies, cranberry sauce, and a big family gathered around the table. Those images spread across the country, defining what an American Thanksgiving looked like for generations to come. But over time, things shifted. Hale's original vision of the day for unity and reflection turned into something different. Instead of a national day of thanks, it became a day of overeating, football marathons, and gearing up for Black Friday deals. Somewhere between the stuffing and the scoreboard, the idea was lost. Now, Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with watching the game or going back for seconds or even thirds, but Thanksgiving was never meant to be a competition, not on the field, not at the dinner table, and definitely not at the checkout line. So maybe this year, when you're sitting down, whether it's turkey, ham, or even takeout, take a second to do what Sarah wanted most. Stop, look around, and really give thanks, not for the food, not for the sales, but for the people sitting around you. As she entered her later years, Sarah retired from her editorial duties in December of 1877 at the age of 89. She passed away just 2 years later on April 30th, 1879 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But she left behind an incredible legacy. As an editor, she shaped American women's literature, domestic culture, and publishing, giving women a voice in a time when few platforms existed for them. As an advocate, she championed women's education and preservation of historic sites, and even campaigned for the completion of the Bunker Hill Monument in Massachusetts. And as the godmother of Thanksgiving, she transformed a scattered regional tradition into a unifying national holiday, one built on gratitude, family, and home. Oh, and also on top of all of that, she wrote the nursery rhyme, Mary Had a Little Lamb. And in a strange twist, in 1877, the same year that she retired, Thomas Edison used the opening lines of Mary's Lamb as the very first word ever recorded into his newly invented phonograph. So in a way, her words were literally the first to echo in the age of the recorded sound. So it's fair to say that without Sarah Josephiah Hale's decades-long campaign, Thanksgiving might have looked very different. But so would women's literature, women's education, and well, Mary may have never had a little lamb. So now, ladies and gentlemen, you know the story of the godmother of Thanksgiving, Sarah Josephiah Hale. From shaping American literature and advocating for women's education, and even writing Mary Had a Little Lamb, her influence is everywhere. And of course, we can thank her for the Thanksgiving that we celebrate today. So go ahead and enjoy your turkey, your pumpkin pie, or the football game, and just maybe take a second to think about what she really was hoping we'd celebrate: gratitude, family, and togetherness. And having said that, I want to thank you for being here and listening to this story. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, and don't forget to follow so you don't miss the next one, because next time we're diving into the story of the board game that stole its own idea. That's right, we're talking about America's favorite board game, Monopoly, and you're not going to want to miss this. Until then, thank you for listening.